Welcome to the meeting, OIS Retina. It's been going on for some years now. Emmett Cunningham, built this with Craig over many years. It's a fantastic meeting. I'm just excited to be part of it. So New York was chosen, and it was chosen by the ASRS. And Craig sets the meeting up wherever they're going to do it. And New York is a great choice. I grew up not far from here. I originally practiced here. I trained here. I love this city. This picture was actually sent to me a couple days ago randomly by James Murray, my partner at Excite, who you will meet later if you haven't already. Random photo crossing Park Avenue at 54th Street. It just happens to be one of my favorite parts of the city, looking south or north, and the Helmsley building is down there. It's just beautiful, and on a day like that, it's the best. And then I'm staying at Times Square, which is here. And, Times Square is Times Square. What can you say about it? It is the city that never sleeps. It's wild and crazy. It looked like this last night. This is not from last night, but it looked exactly like this. And, who doesn't love the Frank Sinatra song at midnight, right? Everybody loves that. But it's July. So the ASRS was thinking carefully about this, apparently, and they thought, when can we make a meeting in the city? It's been a long time for us to have a meeting in the city. Let's do it in the middle of July. Wise. Sorry, Craig, I know you had nothing to do with that. I mean, look at this poor schlep. This guy was a well-meaning and well-intentioned retina surgeon leaving the Marriott Marquis this morning in a three-piece suit and a briefcase. And this is what happened on the way to Jacob Javits Center. This is going to be all of us in our suits walking back and forth in 95 and 95% humidity. I would recommend some other venues. Perhaps this photo, which I also took a week ago and sent to James and Michael while I was on my bike in Carlsbad, where I have a place. Carlsbad is North County, San Diego, an unbelievably beautiful place, and this is the Pacific Coast Highway going south on a bike. And here it is going north back into Carlsbad, which is that village on the hill there. I would recommend that in the future, and keep your eyes open. I think Maureen and Craig may have something to say about that, and that was totally random. Honestly, this slide deck was already done for maybe in December, so keep your eyes open for that. So I've already thanked Maureen and Craig, but I will again. You can't believe how much work goes into this. And my co-chairs, Drs. Carolyn Bamal and John Pollack, you'll meet them shortly. All the moderators and the panelists and the speakers have come from great distances and invested a lot of time and energy putting together their decks and working with Maureen and then getting here, which is a challenge now. And the sponsors who you saw, it's too numerous to count, but we obviously can't be here without the sponsors, and thank you to all. So let's talk a little bit of business. I won't keep too long, and then I'll preview a little bit of the meeting. Everybody, oh, by the way, all my slides for the finance part are courses at University of Pennsylvania, where I went to undergrad, and all the Wharton guys took all these classes, and everyone who was a freshman took Econ 1A and Econ 1B, and there was always like a suicide every year. It was disaster. But they were good classes. Anyway, macroeconomics, Econ 1A. Extremely slowed economy. We all know about this. We all have our own money in the stock market and bonds and so forth. We know what's happening. What does this mean? There's reduced growth, nationally speaking. We'll get to the micro in a minute. Inflation is at 40-year highs. Interest rates are at over 20-year highs. That has a great impact on a lot of people in this room, probably everyone in this room. The public markets are obviously down considerably. I'm not sure the latest tally, but 30, 40%, something really bad. So is this a recession? I don't know. Those are terms I don't really follow. It's semantics, but it's bad, really bad. So Econ 1B, micro is, at the corporate level, what then starts to happen. In a gross level, this is the 20,000-foot view. I'm not a business guy. I can't give you the nitty-gritty of how this works, but the effects are the cash reserves are down for a lot of individuals and a lot of corporate structures, investors, investment groups. Debt becomes much more expensive, and we feel that in every aspect of the economy, particularly in what we do, because debt is kind of an engine for cash. So does this mean risk tolerance becomes reduced? In general, you'd think psychologically, yes. People get nervous. So you get a little more into it, and now you're in the so-called finance classes, or fin, as they called them at Penn. Now you get a little more analytical here, but still pretty simple stuff. It gets much more difficult to raise money. You're going to hear a lot about this today on the panel that I'm participating with, but you'll hear it from others as well. And so financing deals, as we call them here, becomes much more expensive. If you think about it as an individual investor, if your holdings in the public markets or the more traditional investment vehicles go down considerably because they're devalued, your relative holdings in the higher risk VC private equity type investments goes way up without you doing anything. And most of us and most investment groups select, their investment vehicles based on what proportion of their overall portfolio are made up. So if you generally want 2 to 5% of your money in VC and PE and things like that, well, now it's representing 10 to 15% maybe of your holdings because your public markets crashed. So that would likely reduce one's, appetite to put more in there. So again, raising money becomes even more difficult. Conversely, if you're really thinking about it and you're getting more afraid to put money into the public markets, then maybe you'd actually think about putting more into those traditionally considered higher risk areas. This is all psychology, of course. So are we all going to the soup kitchen is the question, and everyone in this room. And this is a soup kitchen, and I was alarmed at how well dressed everyone is in the soup kitchens in those days. I don't think they look like that now. Well, let's go further into this. Are we going to the soup kitchen? So the data is, to be a little more specific, public markets, if you look at ophthalmology companies, and this was provided to me, there's some indices that look at various subspecialty areas. 41% down in the trailing 12 months and 24% down this year alone. That's deep, and those companies are going to struggle with cash. What about VC-backed financing into biotechnology in general? And that's what a lot of us are talking about in this room today and all the time. Well, in 2021, it was phenomenal. There was so much going into it. We'll see some of the numbers in a minute. Maybe it's because there was dry powder from coming out of the pandemic. I'm not really sure. People have theorized different things, but 2021 was incredible. Second quarter of 2022, which just completed a few days ago, is down a full 50% from the peaks in 2021. So that looks pretty bad. That looks calamitous. And it does look like from that number, the sky is falling. But it's not really falling. You have to have more perspective than that. Fortunately, at least for now, this is the real data, because when you go to Wharton, which I did not, but my friends did, the guys who actually know everything are the accountants. All the other guys do the fancy stuff, the finance guys, they do all the creative stuff. The accountants are the ones who actually give you facts. These are the facts. So again, 2022, which I just showed you was down 50% quarter two, actually compares incredibly well to historical standards. In fact, $18 billion into private biotech funding in the first half of 2022. That's huge. And if you look at that compared to 40 years of standards, it's the second highest in the 40 years, behind 2021. So this lends perspective that the sky isn't falling. In fact, it's 40% higher than 2017, which at the time was heralded as the year of investor exuberance. This is a term that we picked up during the banking crash. So what about that second quarter 2022 I just mentioned, 50% down? And of course, the finance people are always looking year over year, and so it looks catastrophic to be 50% down. But in fact, $6 billion in that quarter alone was invested in private biotech, VC-backed. And again, by historical standards to the last 40 years, that's still very high. So maybe there's still a lot of dry powder. Again, I don't know. So we're not going to the soup kitchen. But, oops, sorry, can I go back? I think I lost him. Oh, who doesn't love free coffee and donuts though? Notice the spelling on donuts there. This is really old. The correct spelling. And again, these guys are super well dressed. No women and children. Are they not feeding the women and children in the 1930s? What's going on? All right, I'll preview the meeting now. So enough about me. So what is hot is what we call this when I prepare this with Craig all the time. And really, what you're going to see here, what is hot are the panels we put together. So there's self-fulfilling prophecy here. Developments of dry age-related macular degeneration. This has been somewhat elusive. We keep trying. There are so many different things being considered. You're going to hear about a number of them today, formally and informally. 5 talks will be given during this spotlight. Iveric and Apellis are late-phase clinical trials now. Annexon Bio and ONL will speak, and they're in early-stage clinical trials. And then Samsara will speak at that same session about a surgical option, for these patients for low vision, essentially. And the panel will be led by Carolyn Bamal, who I mentioned earlier. And then, of course, drug delivery. All these things that are hot have been hot for a few years, and I suspect will still be on this slide deck if they were stupid enough to invite me back next year. Drug delivery into the vitreous, into the retina, subretinal space, all suprachoroidal space, all under consideration now. And we'll hear from a bunch of excellent companies doing this. And again, this is the spotlight. You'll hear from other companies in other venues today. But in the spotlight, we have Rivana and EyePoint, and then we have Graybug and Oculinea, all doing a similar kind of concept of a polymer or an attachment to the drug that will allow it to last longer and be more durable. And then we'll also hear from Clearside, who has a device to deliver suprachoroidal drugs and biologics in the clinic, and this panel will be led by Bob Bissetcool of UCSF. Cell and gene therapy remains hot as always, and that's going to be on this list for a long, long time, I suspect. Mostly we're hearing gene therapy in this spotlight. 4 companies doing gene therapy. REGENXBIO, which has a viral vector and is in late-stage clinical trials with good data. Ivensis is doing a non-viral vector, a very unique approach called, at least last time I used the term, electrotransfection. They may give us a different term today, I don't know. And they're in early trials. And then Sparing Vision and Kriya will speak. They're both preclinical. And then there's one company in that spotlight that's true cell therapy, and Endogena is that company. It's a very unique take on how to deliver and utilize stem cell biology. I think this will be fascinating. And this discussion will be led by John Pollack, one of the co-chairs. And then the final spotlight, again, hot. This one is more of a potpourri. We called it emerging technologies, but it's a number of different things. This will be led by Mark Humayun, who'll be coming in later from the ASRS meeting. Retina AI, a technology company focused on artificial intelligence in our space. BVI, Beaver Visitech, who has partnered with Bionics, also a technology company developing surgical visualization technology, which is quite fascinating. 2C Tech is a very unique concept. I have it as a technology. It's really a therapeutic, and they're utilizing something known as quantum dots, which you'll hear about to intravitreally treat retinitis pigmentosa. And then Nanoscope, also for retinitis pigmentosa, is a unique take on gene therapy, something known as optogenetics. And again, that panel will be Mark. And then finally, a couple of other things, and then I'll get out of the way because I'm way over. I told you I would be. A bunch of companies, which I cannot list all of them, will be presenting in our so-called Innovation Showcase, which is always one of the premier parts of this meeting. 13, 14, 15 consecutive 7-minute talks on some brilliant stuff. I would pay attention. It moves quickly, but there's really great stuff in there. And then 2 additional panels. One led by my friend Praveen Dugal, the impact of successes and failures in the retina. I'll let him, I won't steal the thunder, but I think that's gonna be the sort of good, the bad, and the ugly of clinical trials, and he's an expert. And then I'm gonna moderate a section called Financing of Early Stage Retina Innovations. That's fairly self-explanatory, but I have a panel of 4 amazing guys to help me along to understand this financial situation that we're in. And then we're mentioning something that's new to us. And I'll welcome John Pollock to the stage now. He's going to tell us about something known as the Winning Pitch Challenge, which he and Dave Williams of the ASRS developed some years ago to award a new innovator. And I'll let him tell you about it and announce that person. Thank you.